Did you know that you can take your old and classic blues licks and turn them into and simply by deploying your right hand fingers? Hi there, I'm Chris, and today we're going to discuss how you can revitalize your old licks. And in the process, I'm going to show you what hybrid picking is, how to get started with it, and also what fingerstyle picking is. Now, the first thing I see among students attempting to hybrid pick, meaning we're going to be using both the pick and the fingers, is that they rely on a wrist movement to pick. And the problem with this is that every time you pick, you're also obviously transporting all the other fingers on your hand in a certain direction. And that's going to be a problem if you pick one note and then you want to use your fingers, but all of a sudden they're super far away from the strings and you kind of did that unintentionally. And the solution to this is something I've discussed in my other videos as well, is to rely on this kind of thumb joint movement when picking. Because that means your pick and the other fingers are going to be able to act independently from each other. So you can pick one string and you can still pretty much be prepared to hit the next string. So super easy. You can't do that if you do like that, right? It just doesn't work. So this is critical, and you can watch my, I'm gonna put a link below where you can find the video explaining this movement. Now, that's one of the biggest issues for hybrid picking. But I do realize that you might not, in just a matter of minutes, be able to change your picking technique into this. That can take some time. So what I would suggest we do for this specific video is to actually put the pick away. And this has numerous advantages, as it allows you to kind of hone in on the fingers if you've never been using them. And there's a bigger chance you might not be tempted to fall back into this big kind of wrist movement and instead start doing other things with your right hand. So let's have a look at that. Now, the basic principle when using your right hand fingers is to kind of assign one finger per string. So if you're going to be playing on 4 strings, let's say, then you would use maybe your thumb, your index, your middle finger, and your ring finger. That's pretty good, nothing wrong with that, but I would suggest you actually skip the index finger. Because what I've found is when people start with this, they're kind of struggling to find space here. Just everything feels so tiny, it's like your fingers are stuck in a box. So if you remove your index finger out of the equation, you get more space. And a lot of times I find myself using the thumb, the middle finger, and the ring finger, and maybe a little bit of pinky, but to actually skip the index finger. Ooh, pretty smooth, right? Okay. Now, what you're also going to notice, if you've ever played something like this the traditional way, is that you do get a totally different feel when using your fingers. It's both a matter of tone. We're using the flesh of our fingers, which doesn't give us at all the same kind of sound as plastic. Whereas, of course, the nails will give you a sound closer to the pick, but of course still different. Now that's one thing, but also the attack I find is more interesting. It comes kind of, I don't know, creeping at you. It's not that hard, snappy attack. It's like a growing warmth kind of thing. It's a little bit hard to explain, but usually when you start using your fingers, you're going to notice not only does it feel different, but the sound and the attack is very different. So why don't we try to explore one of these licks so you can get started with this. Here's a kind of, I like to think of it as a Mark Knopfler lick, though I don't really know if it's something specific he does in any of his solos, but to me, using the thumb with this kind of pentatonic blues lick has Mark Knopfler written all over it. So we're going to start on the G string, the 8th fret, and we're going to hammer on from the 8th to the 10. So now this is done with a thumb and a hammer on, and then our other fingers come into play. So with a middle finger, not the index finger, I'm going to be playing the next note on the B string, which is also on the 8th fret. And this is the big advantage with our trusty, box 1, C minor in this case, is that we play many notes on the same fret. So we can kind of get away with a mini bar thing here, or a double stop kind of grip, where we're playing many strings with one single finger, and it makes things a whole lot easier because we can focus on other things. We don't have to worry about changing positions and that kind of thing. So 8th fret, thumb, hammer onto 10th fret, and then 8th fret B string with the middle finger, and finally the 8th fret high E string with the ring finger. So we get. Now this is a great kind of launching point if you want to get into your maybe classic bendy. So we could do that. We could start with, and then we could do our, and we get a really cool lick going here. So, and we could even do some bending here maybe. So. When I play these kind of things, I usually think in very small building blocks, such as the ones I've shown you now. And that makes it easy to kind of improvise on the fly, because I don't have to decide in advance in which order or in which combination I'm going to play these small bits. And that's why I'm kind of showing you in real time how you could work on piecing a lick like this together. And that's actually how probably many of your heroes do it without you realizing. They're not thinking in this one long run. Instead, they're thinking in segments that make up for this run. And these segments could look exactly like the ones we're discussing here. So this will be the first one. And then you could do your, like that. It's a bend on the 11th fret, and we're going to use all 3 fingers to achieve that bend. And we've now moved up the thumb, so the thumb is acting on the B string. And then we play that 8th fret with our middle finger. And then we could just repeat and do our bend on the 10th fret up to the 11th. Again, using all fingers to support that bend. And that could be our lick. So we're bending up, bending back down, and then we're pulling off to the 8th fret. And that pull off is done with a downward movement. So you get a bit of sound. You don't just want to lift your finger up in the air like that. So downward. So we get. One more time. There we have an example of how we can achieve a cool bluesy kind of Mark Knopfler-ish lick using our fingers. Now I would do the same with my pick as well. But you lose a little bit of warmth there, so I'm a big fan of not always using the pick. And as I said in the beginning, if you're new to combining pick and fingers, it might actually be easier for you to put the pick down and just use your fingers for practicing purposes. And if you do that regularly, you're all of a sudden going to find yourself starting to use your fingers because they're hanging there, so why not use them anyway, especially if you're starting to get a little bit comfortable with that. If you want to go directly into hybrid picking, you can do that, but again, you need to work on your thumb joint movements so that your pick and fingers can work independently from each other. Okay, so how would all of this sound over a backing track? C minor. Let's put the pick down. So I like that quite a bit. If we just play the pick with the pick. It's nice, but it doesn't have quite the same feeling. Very nice. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna link you up to both this backing track and an example tab of what we looked at here, so you can go through this at your own pace, and hopefully you're gonna be able to master some fingerstyle picking. Good luck, my friend. See ya. Cheers.